Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into the world of Hüseyin Çağlar.
Yeah, we've got quite a bit to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Website info, bits from his books, articles.
Exactly. And we're going to sift through all of it based on the information we've gathered about Hüseyin Çağlar to really get a handle on what drives him,
Yeah,
this deep connection to nature and environmental awareness.
that's the plan. Our mission, really, for this deep dive is to pull out the core insights. His contributions to nature, education, conservation, all drawn from what we have here.
It's quite a mix of materials, isn't it?
It is, gives us different angles, different perspectives on what he's doing.
Absolutely. So think of this as us getting a good look at his journey, his passions, all distilled just for you from these resources.
Mhm.
So let's start there. Where does this passion for nature actually come from? I mean, looking at the materials, his own website starts with Selim Ben Çağlar. Hello, I am Çağlar. And right there, prominently, Doğadabuan, which means I am in nature. That phrase. It feels like more than just saying where he is, doesn't it? It sounds like identity.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
I am in nature. It suggests like a fundamental way of being for him, not just a hobby or a place he visits.
Exactly.
And while, the information we have doesn't give us the usual bio details, birth date, formal schooling, that sort of thing.
Right, no standard CV points.
No. But there's this piece about the Semre Berama.
Yeah.
That gives us a real window, I think. It describes him taking young students out into nature.
Ah, the Simre Bayramı. That's the traditional sign that spring is coming in Turkey, right? The embers falling.
Exactly. First to the air, then water, then earth. The idea is they warm everything up. And he's out there with kids specifically to observe the changes happening on that very day the first Semre supposedly falls.
Wow. So not just talking about it, but actually being there, watching these subtle shifts happen with students.
Yes. That hands-on engagement, experiencing nature's rhythms directly and sharing that with young learners, it speaks volumes.
It really does.
It suggests his approach isn't just, academic or theoretical. It seems really grounded in direct experience, in observation.
That kind of early, direct connection. It seems like it must be foundational, right? Both for him personally and how he thinks about education, based on the information we've gathered about Hüseyin Çağlar.
I think so. It's about building that relationship with the natural world just by being present, by watching.
Makes total sense. You really appreciate something when you're right there in it. Okay, so let's see how this connection translates into his professional life, his work. The materials show he's active in a few different areas. Documentary filmmaking, for instance. There's a mention of the TRT Belgesel Henüz Gestedil TV programma.
Yes. TRT documentary. It's not too late yet. Using TRT, the national broadcaster.
Yeah.
That suggests an effort to reach a really wide audience across Turkey, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Getting that environmental message out broadly.
And the title itself, it's not too late yet. It clearly signals a focus on the urgency, but also the potential for positive action. It's not just doom and gloom.
Hopeful, in a way. So, okay, mass media for awareness. But his work seems to go beyond just that, right? What other areas do the materials highlight?
Oh, absolutely. Beyond big media like documentaries, a lot of his work seems to involve direct engagement, education. We saw that with the Semre Berama thing.
Right, with the kids.
Yeah. But he also writes about really practical, applied ecological stuff. Like that article, Oteller 6 Adım dan Nasıl Doja Dostuna Dönüşür.
Which translates to...
How hotels can become nature-friendly in 6 steps.
Ah, interesting. So shifting from these broad environmental documentaries to very specific, practical advice for like one industry.
Exactly. It suggests he's using different platforms, different ways to reach different groups, tailoring the message.
Smart. And the materials also mention links on his website. Things like Doğada Liderlik ve Motivasyon Atölyesi.
Nature Leadership and Motivation Workshop, yes.
And Kuşgözlemine İlgilendim.
First step to birdwatching.
So these sound like training initiatives, getting people involved directly.
Precisely. They point towards getting people actively in nature, a nature leadership workshop. Maybe using the outdoors to build skills, like observation, resilience, connection, things you learn out there.
Makes sense.
And first step to birdwatching, that's a really clear invitation, isn't it? An accessible activity.
Yeah.
These aren't just talks. They seem focused on getting people outside, building skills, fostering connection through doing things.
Building competence and confidence outdoors. Yeah, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. His books, based on the information we have, he's the author of Doğadabuan. We sort of touched on the title, Nature in This Moment.
Right.
But what do the reviews, the ones included in the materials, tell us about why this book is significant?
Well, the reviews give us some great insights. Mehmet Semih calls it a building block of learning, like a fundamental tool for understanding nature's inherent order.
Nature's order?
Yeah, and he connects that understanding directly to building a sustainable life.
Okay, nature's order for sustainability. Unpack that a little. What's the idea there?
The idea seems to be, based on the review and the book itself, that nature works according to certain principles, right? Cycles, connections, efficiency, all that.
Okay.
By watching and understanding this magnificent order, as Jens calls it, we get a kind of blueprint, a guide for how to live, how to structure our societies, manage resources in a way that lasts, instead of, just using everything up.
So nature as a teacher, not just a resource pile.
Exactly. That's a powerful way to put it.
Yeah. What else do the reviews bring out?
Well, İdizhan, he's an actor, but also a known ecologist in Turkey. He highlights the book's focus on Turkey's incredible biodiversity.
Ah, making it local.
Yes. And he mentions specific examples, like the unique Toros frog. So it's not just abstract nature, it's about appreciating the specific natural heritage right there in Turkey.
Mentioning the Taurus frog definitely makes it more concrete.
Absolutely, grounds a whole idea. And then İdizhan makes this really fascinating connection. He talks about how nature inspires human innovation. His example is bird wings inspiring airplane winglets.
Oh, right. Biomimicry, learning from nature's designs.
Exactly that. And Hun uses this example to say, look, there's so much practical wisdom, so many ideas still waiting for us in nature.
So nature isn't just fragile and needs protecting, it's also this incredibly advanced system with solutions.
Precisely. It positions nature as a source of innovation, not just vulnerability.
That links back nicely to Söylemez's point about the blueprint for sustainability.
It really does. And then Güven İslamoğlu, a TV producer, he really captures the spirit of the title, Doğadabuan, Nature in This Moment.
Right.
He talks about Etz's knack for getting people to just stop and see nature unexpectedly. Pointing out a flower that just bloomed or a butterfly landing nearby, making them notice the wonder right there.
Those sudden moments of connection.
Yes. And the book, İslamoğlu says, captures and compiles these specific Doğadabuan moments. Özkan Yüksek adds they originally appeared in Magma magazine. So it feels like the book's real strength is making the profound feel immediate, accessible through these relatable little snapshots of nature.
So it's a book really designed to open your eyes to the everyday miracles, maybe, prompting that connection we talked about earlier?
Exactly. It takes nature from this big abstract thing and turns it into a series of living, breathing moments you can actually recognize or look for yourself.
Very cool. Now, he also co-authored another book mentioned, Yörüklerden Kayıp Meseleler.
Lost Tales from the Yörüks, yes.
What's the story with this one? What's its significance based on what the materials tell us?
This one takes a different tack, but it's just as powerful, I think. It connects people to nature through cultural heritage. The comments from Özkan Yüksek and Victor Ananias are really key here.
Victor Ananias from Bude Derneğiz?
Yes, the founder. Yüksek stresses how urgent it is to preserve these oral traditions, these stories from the Yörük people, before they just disappear.
And the Yörüks are the traditional nomadic or semi-nomadic groups in Turkey, closely tied to the land.
That's right. Deep history in Anatolia, very connected to the landscapes. Yüksek points out something fascinating. The rhythm of the tales, the tekrarlamalar.
Tekrarlamalar, like rhythmic chants or verses?
Kinda, yeah. He explains how their cadence, their sort of repetitive, cyclical structure, actually mirrors the natural cycles the stories often describe, like stars moving, seasons changing, birds migrating.
Wow, so the way they tell the story reflects the natural world itself.
Exactly. It's not just what they say, but how it's said. And Yüksek argues that this deep connection to natural rhythms in the tales serves as a powerful contrast to the disruption caused by, well, modern human impact, climate issues, for instance.
So, by showing this old way, deeply connected to cycles, it highlights how far we've drifted.
That seems to be the implication. It uses the rhythm and content of these ancient tales to comment, maybe implicitly, on today's environmental problems.
That's a really interesting link.
It is. And Victor Ananias adds another layer. He says these tales aren't just folklore. They hold the practical wisdom, the spiritual understanding of the Yörük way of life, a life lived in harmony with nature.
Not just stories, but lived wisdom.
Right. He notes they came from experience passed down with this holistic view connecting past, present, future, and the environment. So the book really directly links cultural heritage with traditional ecological knowledge.
It shows that conservation isn't some brand new idea, but has deep roots.
Exactly. It makes a strong case for looking at these traditional ways, these stories, for lessons on how to live more sustainably now. Cultural preservation and environmental conservation become like two sides of the same coin.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, so moving beyond the books and the TV work, what other projects does he seem to be involved in? Based on the information we have, we saw Kayıp Masalar mentioned again, which is the book.
Right, the Yörük Tales book project.
And also, Kırlangıç Dostu Hotel, swallow-friendly hotel. That sounds very specific.
It really does. Kırlangıç Dostu Hotel.
Yeah.
It strongly suggests a very focused initiative, probably in the tourism sector, right? Promoting wildlife-friendly practices.
Makes sense given his article on hotels.
Exactly. And focusing on swallows. They're often visible signs of environmental health. They nest near people. They can be affected by pesticides impacting insects.
Yeah.
So focusing on them can be a really tangible way for hotels to show they care about ecology.
So taking that idea of integrating nature and applying it very practically to an industry like hospitality,
Seems like it.
are there mentions of broader collaborations, like with NGOs, civil society groups?
Well, the materials don't give us like a full list of every partnership he's ever had.
Sure.
But the specific mention of Victor Ananias from Bude Dernetti, connected to the Yörük Tales book, that's significant. Bude is a major player in Turkey's ecological movement.
Okay, so that shows engagement with established groups.
Definitely. It points to collaboration within that wider environmental network in Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And as we talked about, his TV work on TRT and his articles also function as large-scale projects, right? Media-based environmental projects, getting information out there.
So it's a real mix then. Cultural preservation with the tales, direct action like the hotel idea, and using media to educate and spread awareness. Quite a multifaceted approach.
It is. It shows he's trying to tackle environmental awareness from, well, several different angles at once.
Okay, so pulling all of this together, the personal connection, the different kinds of work, the books, the projects, what's the big picture? What vision for nature and environmental awareness seems to emerge from all this information we've gathered about Hüseyin Çağlar İnce?
I think a pretty clear central vision comes through. It's definitely focused on raising environmental awareness, specifically within Turkey. That's the context for all this activity.
Right.
And his book, Doğadabuan, as Mehmet Semihsorum has highlighted, explicitly aims to help people understand nature's logic. Why? For sustainability. In all aspects of life.
Understanding nature's logic as the foundation for sustainability, that really feels like a core part of his vision.
Absolutely. It's not just about listing problems. It's about shifting how we see things, fundamentally. And his practical work, like the Semre Bayrami observation with kids,
Yeah, that stood out.
it directly shows his belief in, well, the necessity of nature-based education, especially for children, for young people. Connecting the next generation directly with nature seems crucial to him for fostering, future environmental stewardship.
So it's not just learning about nature, but using nature as the classroom.
Exactly. And the Lost Tales from the Yörük project adds that other dimension connecting cultural heritage to ecological understanding. His vision seems to involve showing that living harmoniously with nature isn't some new, foreign idea. It's deeply embedded in traditional wisdom, in cultural practices, and that holds valuable lessons for us today.
So the overall vision seems to be about actively reconnecting people, all sorts of people, young and old, with the natural world right around them. And using that connection, whether it comes from watching birds, hearing ancient stories, or taking practical steps, using that as the essential basis for environmental understanding, and ultimately living more responsibly.
Precisely. Based on everything we've looked at, his vision seems rooted in this conviction. Understanding nature's magnificent order, its principles, its resilience, how it all connects, that's the best guide we have for creating a sustainable future. And he wants to make that understanding accessible, inspiring.
Well, we've taken quite the deep dive into the world and work of Hüseyin Çağlar, using the materials you brought together, from his books connecting nature and culture to his TV work and hands-on education. His dedication to environmental awareness in Turkey is really clear.
Yeah, his efforts draw on so much science, observation, ancient traditions. It all points back to looking to nature for guidance, for inspiration, and really highlights how powerful education can be in cultivating real environmental stewardship, for the long haul.
So what does this all mean for you, listening? Hüseyin Çağlar İnce, through all these different projects and writings, he seems to be inviting all of us to just consciously notice. to appreciate the wonder, the wisdom that's right there in nature.
Whether it's taking that Doğadabuan moment, seeing a butterfly,
Right.
or thinking about the ecological insights hidden in old stories, like those of the Yörüks.
It definitely raises an important question for us to think about in our own lives, doesn't it?
Yeah, how can we actively seek out those lessons? How can we integrate that connection with the natural world into our daily lives, into our communities, maybe taking some inspiration from the multifaceted way he seems to approach it?
Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.